Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Weekly Hope. It's Kirsten Hagland here, your host, and my unofficial co-host of this show, Elsa. We are so glad that you're here. If you're new and joining us for the first time, welcome to this show. Just to let you know a little bit about who we are and what we do here to begin. So Eating Disorder Hope started this show last May, and what we do is every week we're here on Facebook Live and we invite experts, clinicians in the field of mental health and eating disorders, as well as advocates, people who work in the field of nonprofits, people with their own recovery stories, just a wide variety of different guests from different sectors to come on to talk about topics that they're passionate about, things trending in the industries, to share their story, and of course to be able to offer you a space as well, wherever you are in your recovery journey, to be able to hear these insights, to be able to be educated, to hopefully gain some inspiration and hope, and to be able to ask them questions, share your thoughts, all of that. We want to provide an open conversation for people who are in recovery from an eating disorder and seeking freedom. And if you're joining us again, welcome back. We do have people from all over the world who join this show, which is so cool. And they come and they usually sign in on the comments, let us know that they're here. And so we want to welcome you back if you're joining us again. And that being said, Elsa and I and our guests would love to hear from you. So throughout the broadcast, please feel free to let us know that you're here. You can just type down there in the comments. I see every comment and every question. So let us know you're here. Say hello. Let us know your name, where you're signing in from. And if at any time you have a question or something on your mind and you want to share it, please feel free to do that. We would love to get your questions and being able to give your questions to our guest. So without further ado, I want to introduce our topic for today and our guest. This woman is really cool. I can't wait for you to meet her and for us to dive into this conversation, because we're going to be discussing movement therapy, dance and movement therapy, and its role in the eating disorder recovery process. And we have got an incredible expert today, someone who's been working in this field for a very long time. So she is the expert, and we can't wait to talk with her. So I'm going to bring her on to the other side of the screen. There's Caroline Leibman from McCallum Place. Welcome, Caroline.
Hello. Hello, everyone.
Yes, so I'm going to just read a little bit of your bio so that everyone gets a sense of where you are coming from in this conversation. So Caroline is a board-certified dance and movement therapist, a somatic experiencing practitioner, and a nationally certified counselor with an MA in education from Washington University in St. Louis. This is really interesting. She completed her graduate work in dance movement therapy as well as a professional diploma in dance and movement studies at the Leibman Center in London, England. She trained in authentic movement at the Authentic Movement Institute in Berkeley, California, and with Janet Adler, PhD. Caroline is an adjunct faculty member in the Performing Arts Department at Washington University in St. Louis, teaching in the somatics program. So that's just a little bit about her background, and she, like I mentioned, currently works at McCallum Place. And so Caroline, first, why don't you let us into your world a little bit and tell us what a day in the life looks like with the work that you do at McCallum.
Well, I'm a group therapist at McCallum Place, and so I have a great job because I really go from unit to unit, and I get to do groups, and I, across the day, see probably every patient there. And I love that. And I do groups. I could start off the day, for instance, doing a home group, and then I might do a spirituality group, and then a movement therapy group, and then an authentic movement group, and maybe wrap up with something more in the realm of body image. So my schedule varies every day, but my work really focuses on the expressive therapies, spirituality, mindfulness, life narratives. Yeah, so that's kind of, that's a little glimpse. It's just a little glimpse into the day.
Yeah, amazing. And so can you tell us a little bit about how you got into this field in the first place? And I think you said you were a dancer yourself?
Yes. Well, I always loved dancing. When I was little, that was my kind of favorite thing to do. I danced around everything. And And I, fell in love with ballet as a little girl, and I took ballet classes until junior high, and then I found modern dance, and I thought that was just so incredible. And I did modern dance from junior high through high school, and then I, in college, danced kind of around things. I wasn't a dance major. I loved the musicality of dance, the expressiveness and the capacity, I think, that I had to express myself. And I also loved the sense of spirit, or kind of the homecoming I had inside of myself through dancing. And I found out about this thing called dance therapy. And I was really intrigued by that, because I thought, well, that made all the sense in the world to me, that dance was something that was really therapeutic, because I think for me, it always felt so wholesome and healing and vital.
Yeah.
And so ultimately, I made my way into a dance therapy program where I had the, wonderful training and amazing teachers, and kind of the deep dive into the official field of movement as a healing art.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of how I found my way in. It was very organic, and it was very kind of driven by something inside of me that really followed that pathway that made sense.
Yeah, and we'll talk a little bit more about this as we move later into our conversation. But I mean, I completely know what you mean about finding a sense of coming home spiritually, and just this feeling that you can express through movement and through dance, something that you can't in many other ways. And it also is so neat, and I think so wonderful, that these expressive therapies and things like dance and movement therapy have become a part of the recovery process, because it's not just for dancers, it's for all people. This connection, the mind-body connection, is so important.
Yes, absolutely. And I think that's one thing that Dr. McCallum, who started McCallum Place, and I met her before McCallum Place, but she was always curious and a proponent of the expressive therapies, and wanted to make sure that her program had these components.
Yeah, absolutely. So the other thing that was mentioned in your bio, and that you do work with, is somatic experiencing. And this is a term that I had heard before talking to you. I'd heard before, but didn't really know what it was. And so can you talk about that a little bit, and how that works? Because I'm sure that there's a lot of people watching who are not quite sure about this kind of intervention.
Sure. So somatic experiencing is a more body-centered approach to dealing with issues of trauma or stress-related illnesses. This approach was developed by Dr. Peter Levine, who continues to develop this work. And somatic experiencing involves interventions that are used so that when a person is in therapy and they might be telling their story, the therapist will work with that person to actually pause the person in the telling, the narrative, and ask that individual to notice what's happening in your body as you speak about that. What feelings are you noticing? And so then the person actually learns how to develop a relationship with their body through noticing the sensations, and they actually track. They learn how to follow the sensations from a place of kind of activation to calmer and deactivation. And in doing this, they are able to learn how to kind of calm down or let be completed, uncompleted motor responses that are involved in either the flight pattern or the fight pattern, these basic defenses that we have, or our freeze pattern. Because typically what happens is these patterns get kind of stuck in us. So the energy of those patterns gets stuck in us. And so that dysregulates our nervous system. And in somatic experiencing work, we slowly not kind of, but literally slowly unpack that. And as that activation goes down, the client is then really asked to sit with that and notice that. And this whole new sense of balance and calm can be renegotiated literally in the nervous system. Dr. Levine noticed, how easily animals could shake off fight or flight or come out of freeze situations so easily. And he, over the years, very, very, very beautifully developed a system where people could help others do that, professional health, mental health people. And his work is, he literally calls it renegotiation, because that's what happens in the nervous system.
Yeah.
So it's very healing. It's very modulated and titrated and safe. And it brings a person once again back home to the body. Dance movement therapy, way back when I was studying at Kirsten, was really ahead of its time, I think, because it talked about the necessity of engaging the lower brain stem, part of the triad brain, the neocortex being one, the limbic system, the limbic brain being the second, the lower brain stem, which governs fight, flight, and freeze, being another component that dance therapy really helped unite and utilize all three areas of the brain in healing. And Peter Levine's work, and of course all the advances of neuroscience has, shown the importance of working with that lower brain and helping to let those uncompleted fight and flight and freeze patterns complete safely through the somatic experiencing method.
It's so amazing. It's so cool. And I think, we've got Melissa says, hi, ladies. Hi, Melissa. Thank you for joining us and saying hello. And of course, the invitation is always open to anyone who wants to pop in and say hello, tell us your name and where you're joining us from. And if you have any questions for Caroline at any point, please let us know. And Melissa says, I'm caring for my daughter who is in recovery from an eating disorder. So way to go. I'm so glad that you're here and that you found us and you're listening to this. And hopefully this will be an encouraging conversation for you too. I know as a mom, that can be a tremendously difficult journey. So super glad that you're here and you found us. But I think what's so cool, I think especially for people to know, is that these things that we work through in the emotional journey of recovery is not just all in our heads, or it is literally, but
exactly.
But it's not like we're crazy, right? That there are literal physical responses that have built up over years. There are certain circuits, there are pathways that can be recognized, thought about, and connected to, as you just very, very eloquently described, a certain place in our brain. Like, we can think about this in a structured way, and there are structured processes to help figure it out. It's not just, I'm a mess,
Right. No, it's just not. I mean, telling the story is very important, but we also know that we have to kind of unburden that sensory experience that's in the story. And that's how we more thoroughly metabolize trauma or stresses that are often in the root system of an eating disorder, that individuals will use an eating disorder to actually numb or contain or like calm down or close it down.
Right.
Of course, it doesn't work over time.
Right. Absolutely. And that's such, and it's even, I mean, I know that from your work that it's such an important process for anyone at any point of recovery, whether from trauma or addiction or substance abuse or anything, but the disconnect is so particular to the eating disorder experience because the body has really become an object rather than a lived-in experience. Right. And there can be so much fear in feeling sensory. Like, no, I've just spent the last however many years or decades making sure I don't feel anything. And you're asking me to reconnect with my body? What?
This is right. A big part of my job. Yeah. And really, it's the only way is really back in and through and back into this very important treasured vessel, which is our body.
How have you seen personally, like in your experience with clients and over the many years that you've been doing, how have you seen the benefits? Like, what are the biggest benefits of dance and movement therapy in the recovery process? And, you know, if you have an example or a cool aha moment that a client had or something like that, that you can share, that's always, I think, really, really cool and neat for our viewers.
Well, I've been so lucky, very blessed to have the opportunity to work with such amazing men and women that come and are seeking recovery. And the fact that they have the courage to even, do what they're doing with me or with all of us here is amazing. I just want to say that first of all. But I can think of so many stories, Kirsten. One that just really comes to the top of my head simply as I remember a woman who came into an authentic movement group and with some trepidation, of course. And she went along with the process and closed her eyes. And I mean, within a half of a minute, these tears just started really flowing. And she just let it be. And there wasn't any resistance on her part because luckily she felt safe enough in the group and in the containment of the instruction. And then when we were processing it, she just talked about how she hadn't been able to feel for months and months and months, and that being able to just kind of sink into her own earth a little and allow and have that experience was just transformational. And that's one example, but I think in general, dance therapy, authentic movement, which is another form of dance therapy, these therapies, I think, allow a person to experience their body in a more positive way. You so articulately talked about this disconnect from the body. And I think dance therapy allows this homecoming. It's, first of all, dance therapy is a process. So there's no product involved in dance therapy. While dance as a product is a wonderful, beautiful thing. Yeah. I love dance and beautiful dance. But in dance therapy, there's no emphasis on technique or what you should or you shouldn't do. It's really the movement that comes out of you in the organic, unfolding way in which it does, as well as trying to elicit a relationship with movement from the outside in. But this allows people to contact a flow within themselves, contact their imagination, and kind of reconnect with the wealth of image and symbol and creativity in the mind. Dance therapy allows people to literally kind of safely reconnect, like part by part, through movements and warm-ups. So their body awareness and sense of connected wholeness can come back online. Great affective expression happens in dance therapy. So people can get angry and show frustration and get really big in those movements, but yet have a very safe, contained, titrated expression. So they don't walk away feeling out of control. They really learn that they can be in their body and feel in control, which is huge, of course, in overcoming an eating disorder. And also, dance therapy gives people a chance to be spontaneous and playful, even silly. I have lots of props to help movement enlarge or to support themes sometimes. So spontaneity is a big one too, playfulness.
That's so cool.
And of course, the felt sense of the body as not an object, but this really sacred thing that it is. And the flow factor, I think, is really important as people, individuals, patients, begin to breathe again and feel their breath and feel more connected to themselves. I think they honestly connect more with that implanted flow. I think that we all know that flow toward goodness in life, in connection and communion, and love that
Yeah.
comes from within us, that's implanted, that's there naturally,
Yeah.
that can feel so helpful and so, oh gosh, like a wonderful, wow, you mean this is me too? Yes,
Yeah.
this is you. You
Yeah.
know, so reaffirming and reassuring that there is something that's so much deeper and more beautiful and really there in abundance.
Yeah.
In abundance.
And, I think it's something that, and, there's a whole lot of, and I see some questions in the comments, so we'll get to those in just one second. So just hang in there. I think it's something that is a interesting development in Western culture. We're so focused on the mind and so focused on higher education, and that's a good thing, right? I'm all for higher education. That's great. And so focused on having things in order and having a system and all that, and that's great and that functions well. But at the same time, it's so hard to kind of strip all of that expectation and judgment and rules and order away to just inhabit oneself.
Yeah.
And we get so used to that. And even if someone is not struggling with an eating disorder or addiction or in the recovery process, there's so much benefit in stripping all of that away and just being and like moving. And who cares what people think, or who cares if you're not following the rules, or who cares if you look silly or don't look polished or whatever. Like, just be yourself. Just chill out.
Like open that long spectrum so that you can hold all of that. Because of course we need all that higher education, as you said. We need to be able to, do our lives.
Of course.
And we also need to be able to go to the other side of that long spectrum. And that's a premise in dance therapy, is that we really widen the movement repertoire to include as much of ourself as we can.
Yeah.
And that's what you're saying. And that's a huge premise in dance therapy. And in authentic movement, we really work on not only developing an inner capacity to witness oneself, so our mindfulness, or in authentic movement, we call it the inner witness, but we also notice when the critical mindset moves in, or sometimes we'll call it the eating disordered mindset. I call it oftentimes a critical, judgmental, mean-spirited mindset. And we just try to notice that and just drop that and see if you could return to just witnessing what's inside with open-mindedness, or self-care, or compassion, or just self-acceptance. But just doing that little shift over time creates change, as you can imagine. Yeah.
I absolutely love that. I gotta, I love, so Sarah says hello from Seattle. Hi, Sarah. Denise says, hi, this sounds like an amazing way to reconnect with your body in the space you occupy after it has felt so foreign and distant for such a long time. And it's so true. And Denise joins us often. So, hey, Denise, it's so great to see you. Melissa, I want to get to, I want to direct a question from Melissa to you for some encouragement, Caroline, as well. But I also just want to bring in Megan here. Megan says, I was a patient at MP and I assume that's McAllen Place, and was always so grateful for the atmosphere of safety you provided in those somatic groups. Trauma work is so hard because of what your body feels. And I just think that's so cool and a real testament to the work that you're doing. And of course, Travis. So much of this conversation reminds me of the work of psychologist Thomas Fuchs, I think, work on the corporeal body versus the lived body. What you're doing, Caroline, is helping people live in the body without shame, and that's beautiful. And I want to, Melissa is the signed in and mentioned that she is the one who is working with her daughter who is in recovery from an eating disorder. And she said, I find that my daughter always has to be mentally stimulated, whether it be music or voice lessons, writing, yoga, or academics. She did dance therapy as well for a while at residential. and says she's just started a YouTube channel to document her journey in hopes to help others. That's really, really cool. Thanks, Melissa, for sharing. And Caroline, I would, yeah, I'd love to hear from you, Caroline. What advice or encouragement you might have for someone like Melissa, or maybe another parent or loved one who's trying to support someone in their recovery process. How can they do that the best? And maybe they're a former dancer, or maybe they're kind of exploring some of this, trying to reconnect with their body in some way. How can someone help support a loved one in therapy?
Oh, don't give up. Never give up. Never give up. Stay curious. Keep letting that loved one know that you love that loved one, because oftentimes in the process of, on the difficult side of the challenges, there may be a big push away from that person. And I don't think that people ever really want to push away their loved ones, but they try at times because of the state of mind that they're in. See that as an invitation to really step in and help more. Problem solve as much as you can. Know that we are living in a time when there are so many good resources. And so, for instance, you can check the American Dance Therapy website and find out what resources might be in your community, or the Somatic Experiencing Trauma Institute website, the NIDA Foundation. They're just, watch your show once a week. And I want to say, have hope, because people are recovering from eating disorders, and there's just so many resources available now. Also, to the caretaker, I think it's really important to take care of yourself. So it may mean that you get a therapist for yourself to talk about when you get tired, or when you feel like that you don't know what else to do. Nurture your own body.
Yeah. Really, really essential.
Feed yourself well. Have a spiritual practice that sustains you and promotes your own unity and wholeness of self. Know that the medical opportunities available, and the therapeutic opportunities available, and probably the love and the goodness and the caring that you have inside of you, can be enough to keep helping that person over those really difficult times. Don't give up.
Yeah, such wise words. And it's cool. Megan says, so true. And we've got Elena here too. She says, hi from Arkansas. Hey, Elena. Hi. She said, dance therapy sounds wonderful. And Sarah has some inspiring words. She says, I'm learning to support my daughter that has witnessed my breakdowns. And now we are finally talking about how my ed affected her life, living in our bodies, proud and ready to keep recovering together. Way to go, girl. It's amazing, Sarah.
Yes, I of course I'm biased, but I think if you can keep however you're working with yourself as wholesome, body, mind, spirit as possible. I'm biased, but I think you'll have a stronger outcome. If you really keep the body in the picture, as well as all the other components.
Yeah, so cool. Melissa says we had family therapy this morning. This can be financially draining. Yeah, it absolutely can be. I appreciate all of your insight. Thank you. Melissa, hang in there. That's awesome. And let us know. I said, you see you're in New Jersey. Reach out to us. Let us know how we can help or support you in any way. That would be great. We're getting close to our time being up here, Caroline, and you're just such a beacon of light that I could just talk to you for 2 more hours. But I would love to get your input too on how you work with people in particular, because McAllen Place is really unique in that it has the Victory program, which is, a part of the program that is particularly for, elite athletes and dancers, things like that. How do you work with people in dance movement therapy and getting them to a place where they can, because I would imagine, like, if I had had dance movement therapy when I was in recovery, it would have been very hard for me not to think about how my arm was placed and how my foot was pointed. And you know, whether or not I was engaging my core, and like just my brain would have been like,
It's
you know,
harder for dancers.
yeah, or athletes in general, I would imagine.
I have found it's the hardest for dancers because the
Yeah,
training is so specific, and that's understandable.
yeah,
Well, first of all, working with dancers or athletes in the Victory program is a great joy because they are so natural. They have a history of being embodied
yes,
and loving it.
yeah,
So that's kind of a neat thing. And
yeah,
so it's very typical that in my dance therapy group with the Victory patients that there's like lots of movement and lots of actually lots and lots of play. What I try, and I also try not to try, but what I what I hope to elicit by just introducing the principles of dance therapy is for them to experience being in their bodies in a non-evaluative, non-judgment, non-performance way so that they can reconnect with just that joy in moving and letting go of the pressures in their head around just like what you said, how it's supposed to look like, to try to let go of all that and to try to experience their body as this wonderful instrument that has the capacity to move for the just pure pleasure of moving. And
yeah,
interestingly enough, I want to say I feel like we spend many times in our Victory groups slowing down and doing nurturing movements on one hand, and then lots of playful, silly fun, imaginative dancing, improvisational movement, going off on tangents of imagination that group members bring to the group. And
hmm,
we also sometimes really get into some, not sometimes, but it's not at all. It's kind of a regular feature that we would do some affective expression works, typically around like frustration and anxiety and
yeah,
anger about how frustrating and how hard it is to be in treatment and to be out of the sport that you love, being out of the communities that you love,
yeah,
and how they no one with an eating disorder plans on it going often the way it goes. So it's very
yeah,
frustrating, very
yeah,
frustrating. The
yeah.
losses.
Yeah, we've got a great question from Brittany. I'd love to get your insight on, and this will probably be the last question here. Brittany says, "I'm a trauma-informed slash sensitive yoga instructor currently struggling with the significantly severe relapse of my eating disorder. I'm wondering if you have insight regarding balancing self-care and care of others. I find myself as an instructor of yoga and meditation ethically at war with myself in my practice. I find myself drained and overstimulated and have found it incredibly difficult to allow myself movement." I'm sure that you have some thoughts to share with Brittany, Caroline.
Yeah. Well, I would say first of all, if there's a way to ease up a little bit on your own self-dialogue to try to, if you're in the midst of a relapse, I think trying to hold that with as much compassion is so important. I think that that doesn't place you in a place of being ethically hypocritical or any of those things at all. It may be a time that you, if you can afford to reduce your practice in your outside work and allow your own body of knowledge as well as your time and space to be given to you right now, just for your own healing from your relapse, and let yourself really learn from that. Because of course the deeper invitation of a relapse is a great learning and
Mm,
great insight into whatever that was all about and how I moved through that. And now I've got that new piece of information, not only for myself, but indirectly, you could use that in your teaching and give that back to others. So maybe some more time for yourself right now and reduced work, and then enter back into your work when you're feeling a little more strong and sturdy in yourself. Um,
yeah,
and any reduction of self-judgment, criticism, shame, I think is, as hard as that is to do, I think it's kind of necessary. because that's kind of part of relapse too, is
Yeah.
that negative self-talk escalating. And that's to try to remember that negative self-talk is so often filled with exaggerations and non-truths.
Yes, ma'am. I'm just taking it all in right now too. I'm like, can you just keep talking? Yeah, we've got big hugs here from Melissa. Says Catherine is Catherine expressed about having an eating disorder being exhausting, and Melissa said it is and offers hugs. So yeah, just a lot of people major amening to what you're saying. Caroline, thank you so much for your time. This has been really incredible. Thank you for the work that you do and the expertise that you have. And I'm just so glad that you're at McCallum and offering this to people. And I also just really want to encourage people, if you're watching, to check out McCallum Place. I'll put their website here in the comments. They really do a beautiful job in having philosophy of treatment there, and do really excellent work, as is evidenced here by Caroline. So check them out as a resource. I'm going to put this here in the comments so you guys have this link. And also want to let you guys know that if you want to, if this was meaningful and helpful to you, and maybe you want to share it with others as well, it's going to live on our Facebook page and our video section, as well as will be posted in just about a day or two on our YouTube channel, Eating Disorder Hope YouTube channel as well. So you can feel free to share the link with other people and share Caroline's wisdom. So thank you guys so much. Caroline, you're brilliant.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for having me, Kirsten. It was just wonderful to get to talk to you. And thank you for what you're doing. This is really an amazing, loving, informed offering that is worldwide, which is kind of like a bit for my brain to even work around. But what you're offering is really a gift. So kudos to you.
Well, thank you. Thank you. We are. You're so welcome. Certainly happy to do it. And thank you, all of you who tuned in. And just want to let you all know as well that we have got a really special episode of Weekly Hope next Wednesday. That's February 27th at 12 p.m. Eastern Time, U.S. time. We've got a special Nita week, because next week is National Eating Disorders Awareness Week. So we have a really special episode with Mike Marjama. He's the former Seattle Mariner and Nita ambassador, who's going to talk about his recovery journey. So we hope that you guys will join us next week for that as well. So wherever you are in the world, have a wonderful, beautiful rest of your day and week. And let's just all try to reconnect and with that mind, body, and spirit, as Caroline talked about so beautifully. So, all right. Goodbye, Caroline.
Bye. Thank you,
goodbye to all of you. Have a wonderful week, and we'll see you next week.